All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our English personal development / leadership / entrepreneurship class. My name is Karla Sandoval, and I'm super excited to be here on the phone with you guys. What seems to be a very successful call series. And again, for everybody who's on the phone for the first time, this is a call series that we started back in September, and we've just been developing it, on an ongoing basis in regards to, starting it all about, having self-awareness, having self-consciousness, and being really mindful of the kind of life we want to live, and knowing that it all starts within, right? It all starts with how we view ourselves and how we take our outlook with life, and more importantly than I think in anything that we probably have gone over time and time again, and that is how important it is to have self-reflection. And today's topic is really going to be tapping into that, and it's all about what is the difference between rational and irrational fear. And this is something that I know all of us, including myself, really, I don't want to say struggle. This is a better word for that. Really are faced with that challenge. There we go. And so one of the things that, before I get into this topic, I want to really key in with all of you who are on the phone, and that is, since the beginning of September, and any meeting that you go to, any book that you read, Cameron especially always talks about how it's so important that in order for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. But really, what does that mean, right? What does it mean when we talk about having a better life and having a better quality of life and being more mindful and happier and success and all that stuff? And really what it comes down to is having an awareness of where we stand. And, I'm doing kind of like a recap, but not really. I'm really wanting to get everybody really clear and on the same channel, and that is, no matter what happens in our lives, no matter what we're experiencing, what it is that we think we're experiencing or we actually are experiencing, it really comes down to the power of choice, right? And one of the things that I'm really hoping that all of us, and I include myself because I know I drop the ball from day to day, and for those of you who are on the phone for the first time, you will know that I say this every time, and I have no problem sharing my personal challenges with you guys, because after all, just because I'm sharing these calls with you doesn't mean that I live this perfect life. It doesn't mean that I don't have moments where I drop the ball, that I don't have moments of fear, I don't have moments of doubt. Of course I do. After all, I am a human, right? But I think that as we become more mindful and more conscious, things get easier, things get resolved faster. So anyhow, back to the topic. So one of the things that I hope that all of us, including myself, that we're really tapped into, and that is this whole concept of constantly doing this whole core four. And the reason being is because the reality is people say you cannot have it all, and maybe you can't in big pieces. But by doing something every single day, something within the body, being mindful of it. And if you fall off track, I know I didn't have the most mindful weekend. I went to a brunch and definitely had an amazing brunch on Sunday. And, and then Monday I woke up a little bloated, or very bloated. And I was like, all right, Karla, that's enough, right? And back to the gym, increase the water, super mindful. I've already had 2 shakes today, and I have my dinner for tonight because I'm going to be in class. It's a salad with chicken. I'm ready, right? I'm ready. I'm prepared for my day. So, I dropped the ball, but hey, you know what? This doesn't mean I have to drop the ball every single time. It means like, okay, no problem. Let's get back on track. So anyhow, doing something every single day in regards to your body, being mindful about that, nourishing it physically and nutrition-wise, and being mindful about developing habits of your spirituality and being more aware of what does it mean to take a couple of 5 minutes, and don't tell me you don't have 5 minutes, right? Like 5 minutes to just quiet the mind and meditate. Last week I tried something on. I was on the treadmill walking, incline, and walking. I was holding on to the handles, and I just closed my eyes and started visualizing my day. And for a minute, I got to tell you, I was like thinking, gosh, these people around me must be like, what is she doing? But at the end of the day, really, it doesn't matter, right? Because everyone's in their own thing, and people are going to think whatever they're going to think. And I was like, okay, Karla, It doesn't matter. Let them think what they're going to think, right? And I just kept taking a deep breath and quieting the mind. It took me a while because I was so concerned of looking good, right, and having everybody think or not think that I was some kind of weirdo closing my eyes on the treadmill. But anyhow, so doing something every day to feed the spirit part of you. And the third part is doing something every day to nourish your relationship. Something as simple as texting somebody that you love, letting them know, hey, you know what, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for what you've done. Any little things, you guys. It is this, Jim Rohn used to always say, there is drama in the details. And a presidency member I never will forget, he said, it is that 10% difference that makes you different from everybody else. It is that 10% that you do extra that will set you apart from every other distributor or any other person in the world. It is a 10% difference in companies or what they do, those little things that they do that set them apart from other companies. So that's all about relationships, investing every single day in something, a text, a phone call, a hug, 5 minutes looking at somebody, really engaging with somebody, whatever that is for you. And then the fourth thing, and that is doing something every single day with your business and investing time and knowledge, investing time to doing something to improve your knowledge in your business and doing something that's going to put you in action. So why I'm bringing that up is because when we are tapped into those fourth concepts, the core four, and you're actually doing something every single day with your body, your spirit, your relationships, and your business, you will notice, and I challenge you this week, take one day and say, today I'm going to score a 4, and notice at the end of the day who you are being and what sensations you have, what thoughts, what emotions you generate because you score a 4. I will confess it's very rare that I will score a 4, but I'll tell you those days that I score, closer to a 4 than the days that I don't, things go smoother. And so I just really challenge you to do that. So the reason I'm saying that is because here's the topic of today, and that is, what is the difference between rational and irrational fears? And here's the thing I will tell you, and that is, and in case you don't know this, for those of you who are on the phone, myself and my entire family has done an education called Landmark Education. And I got to tell you, between that and Herbalife and the mentors and, the going to the Anthony Robbins seminars and going to the Next Level Experience seminars and all these things that I've done, I got to tell you, one of the common denominators that every single thing has, and that is everything is a mindset. Everything. Your belief will determine the quality of your life. And today I was, doing my study. That's one thing that I always score on, and that is I really invest the time to study to better myself, whether it's a book or an audio. I was putting away clothes because I had no more workout clothes available, and rather than just putting away clothes, I had my computer on. I was listening to an audio, and I was listening to a gentleman talk about the difference between rational and irrational fear, and I just thought, God, this is so perfect, and I want to share this with you guys. And that is, rational fear is something that we all need. It is what keeps, if you want to write this down, it is what keeps you alive. So it actually serves you. If you are on, at a plane and, something happens and, you've got to jump off the plane but you don't have a parachute, you're going to have fear. Now, that fear serves you, right? It's oh my gosh, if I don't put something on, like a parachute on, and I jump, I'm going to die. So that fear actually serves you. It's to keep you alive. And you want that fear, okay? But the irrational fear, you want to write this down, keeps you from living. I love that. Irrational fear is what keeps you from living. Because the reality is there's things that scare you that are not real, that are something that, whether it's your belief system or something that, you think will happen, okay, or something that happened to you in the past, some kind of association that you had, that you had with something that happened to you, something that you think will happen to you. It's all an illusion. And here's what's crazy, is that the brain, really thinks it's real. Because the brain, one of the things, I don't know if any of you have, on the phone don't know this, but any book you read, any science book, scientifically it has been proven that your brain will the only thing your brain does is it receives orders. It will only, so if you say like, why am I so dumb? Your brain will not be like, no, you're not dumb. You're really smart. It won't sit there and argue with you. It actually will, if you say, why am I so dumb? Your brain's going to be like thinking, oh, it's asking me for a report to prove why you're so dumb. Let me go ahead and go through my drawers and pull out every stupid moment you ever did, Karla, right? And your brain, my brain will give it to me. Will give me the reason because it only gets commands. That's it, okay? Now, here's what happens. When you have an irrational fear, your body, your brain will think that it's real. So what will happen is you will actually believe that that thing or that moment or that situation will happen. Now, what you want to do is, of course, like you yourself, your brain will then be like, no, that's not real. It's just something that I think is going to happen, some kind of body sensation. So what you want to do to be able to conquer this is you want to find out what you're scared of. Okay? You want to find out what is it. Because if you're living, this is a business call, right? So if there's something in your business that's just not moving forward, there's something that's just not, it's just not happening, and you're like kind of wondering why, or like, you're like, I really want this, but you can't get yourself to move towards that direction, there is an irrational fear there. I mean, unless it's like real fear, right? But if you really want something with your business, like let's say you want to get to the next level, let's say you want to, do a fit camp, and you've got this, you're just not moving forward with it, the reason why most of the time is because you have an irrational fear attached to that activity or that result. So what you want to do is you want to think about and you want to find out, what are you really scared of? Like really dig deep. And this is why I started the call reminding us that everything comes from consciousness. Everything comes from self-reflection, taking that time to do that self-inquiry. It's not always the most pleasant thing, I know, but what I will tell you, what I also know is that when you do this, it will pay off, okay? So you want to find out, what are you scared of? And then you want to do something to prove to yourself that it's irrational. So let's just say that you're really afraid, you're scared of rejection, right? Or you're scared of, you want to start doing 20 invites a day, but you just can't get yourself to do it. And that's because of an irrational fear. Maybe unconsciously you feel that it's because people are going to say no to you. You've got this irrational fear of, oh my gosh, I mean, obviously, no one's going to eat you alive. But the thing is, it's so real, it appears to your brain like you're in danger, okay? So okay, you know what? I've got this irrational fear of going out to do invites. So now your body, all it knows is fear, be warned, run the other way, right? But you know that it's irrational. However, your brain doesn't know that it's irrational. So your body and your brain, all it knows, fear, like if a lion's going to come and eat you. And all it is you going to give an invite. So if you really want to have a breakthrough in this, here's what you have to do. You have to do something to prove to your brain and to yourself that it's irrational. So what would that look like? For example, if your thing is invites, right? You might want to say, okay, you know what? Here it is. I'm going to go for it. And you see somebody and you go up to them and you actually come on, you can do this. You can do this, Karla. I mean, I do this all the time. I talk to myself all the time. And you have that empowering conversation and you go up to that person and you say whatever you say, you do whatever you do, and you hand them that flyer. You hand them that invite to your nutritional club, to your fit camp, wherever it is that you're inviting them to, right? And that person might say yes, and it might say no. Let's say they say no, right? And your stomach gets like and you feel a little sick. And you go, okay, great, well, no problem. Well, here, let me give you this in case you know somebody who would like to get fit. And here's a fit camp at the park. Thank you. And you walk away. And then in that moment, you've got to tell your brain, see, it's not so bad. You didn't die, right? And you start building that muscle. You do it again. So that way you start sending the messages to your body and your brain that fear that you thought was so real is an irrational fear. So I'm telling you, you've got to put something in your calendar, whether it's at that moment, an invite, or if it's something a little more structured. You've got to do something to start proving to yourself that it's irrational. And the reason being is because here's what happened. A lot of the times, and I know a lot of us, especially like in Landmark, we have this thing that your past doesn't equal your future. everything that you listen from Anthony Robbins to Jim Rohn, they all say that your past doesn't equal your future. And here's one of the things I heard the other day, and I thought this was so awesome, because I think that while it is true that your past doesn't, and here's what I would add, have to equal your future. It doesn't have to equal your future. But I will challenge you to know that it can and it will if today looks just like yesterday. And, when I was listening to this audio, it really dawned on me that so many times, and okay, I know I'm a soft with this with certain things, we want certain results, right? We want something to happen. We want certain things to change. We want to bring towards us certain results. But and while tomorrow the past doesn't equal the future, technically it doesn't, right? But the thing is, because you continue to be you and you continue to take the same actions or take the lack of action, guess what? Things will be the same. And I'll give you a quick example of what I mean by this. So I have been, I will confess, not 100% on my goal with my nutritional plan and my fitness plan, okay? So I had made the commitment of going to work out twice a day in the morning and at night, some cardio and, high intensity interval training. And, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, right? And, when I was doing the bikini competition, the reason why I had ridiculous results in 2.5 months was because I did ridiculous things those 2.5 months. And this Saturday, I was at a landmark class. It's a work day too, and they told us to rate ourselves from 1 to 5. How did you play the first weekend? And from a 1 to 5, how did you rate yourself this weekend? So it would be like from a 1 to 5, how did you rate yourself last STS? How many guests did you bring? How did you play? Did you play full out? Were you totally involved? Were you taking notes? Were you bringing people? Like, to rate yourself from 1 to 5. And then rate yourself from 1 to 5 from this STS, right? Kind of thing. Okay, and then said, all right, now that you've got present to who you have been, how you have been playing, the question is, how will you play from now on? In this case, how are you from level 1 to 5? How are you going to play from now to like extravaganza, for example, right? And for us, it was for next work day, which is March 29th. So how are you going to play between now and March 29th? And at first I said 4 to keep it safe. And then I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? This is why I have not been consistent about my nutritional and fitness plan. I made a commitment to do workouts twice a day, in the morning and at night, and I haven't. And my meal plans, Monday through Thursday, last week, were like 100% dead on. But then Friday I went out, Saturday I was good, and then Sunday I wasn't good, right? And the reason being is because I have been leaving room just in case, kind of an attitude. So at that moment, I was like a 4, and I was like, okay, no, Karla. If I really want to live a life powerfully and live a life I love, I got to play full out. Does that mean that I'll score a 5 every single day? No. If I level from 1 to 5. But what it does mean is that I'm going for it, that I'm shooting for it, that I'm not giving myself a way out just in case. So I crossed off the 4 and I put a 5. And then the next question was, what actions are you going to take in order to achieve that level? So my question to you is, if you're going to go, how are you going to play between now to extravaganza, every STS, fit camp, HOM, how are you going to play between now and extravaganza? And if you say, for example, like a 5, right? Well, now the question is, what actions are you going to take, or do you need to take, in order to score a 5? And so the question is, I started writing them down. I started thinking, okay, number 1, I got to stick to my plan. And, so sticking to my plan. And so anyway, the point is I started breaking it down, right? So today I cooked my asparagus, I cooked my chicken. I'm on 2 shakes already. I have my dinner tonight ready to go. I'm going to be in class till 11. I'm taking, my salad with the 3 ounces of chicken. I'm taking my beverage mix with me, taking my apple fiber and my tea with me. I'm ready to go, and an apple. I'm ready to go. So when it comes tonight, I'm not going to be tempted. My colleagues at this class that I take every Monday night, they don't have the best choices, and so they bring kinds of temptations that I don't want to be part of. So I need to be prepared. So I started writing those things down, and then the second thing is, okay, you know what? I need to schedule my second workout at night. You know, I'm really committed to dropping my body fat before March, and so before honors. So the question is, what do I need to do in order for that to happen? And scheduling it in. So I already have my spin class that I'm going to do at night, etc. So what ends up happening is that irrational fear that I had of whatever it was that was holding me back, you know, is starting to diminish because I'm taking actions to prove to myself that that irrational fear is not real. So why I'm telling you this is because so many times what we need to do are just little tiny steps, okay? So that when you start doing that, what will end up happening is your future will start moving towards what you want it to be. And then the past really will not equal your future. So if you want a different future, you got to have a different past. And how you have a different past is you can't, like, turn back the clock, right? We don't have, like, a time machine. But how you do that is by starting today to make some small change that will give you, like, total big results in the future. So think about this, okay? So if your past doesn't equal your future, which is true, it will if you continue to do the same. So if you don't change anything today or tomorrow on a daily basis, what will happen is you want to know what next week will look like? Just look at last week. You want to know what 2014 looks like? You know, sometimes I tell my coach all the time, well, not all the time, but I tell her often, I wish I had a crystal ball where I could be like, okay, what is this year going to give me, right? And today it was like I loved it. It said, like, you want to know what 2014 is going to look like? Just look at 2013. Because if you're doing the same thing that you did last year, you're going to have the same results. If you want to know what this week is going to look like, look at last week. And if last week is great, perfect. And if you want to continue to have that, fantastic. But if you want this week to be better, you've got to change some things. If last week was not a good week for you, guess what? Now you have the power of choice to make some small changes every single day. That's why that core 4 concept can really support you, and therefore next week will be a better week. So in conclusion, you guys, if you want a different future, you've got to create a different path, and a different path is by doing something today. So repeat a couple things a couple of days, and you will be, like, blown away on how much next week will be better. You know, if you want to lose some weight, you do some things this week. Next week, the scale will be different. Okay, you do some things like Karla, like that it wasn't serving Friday and Sunday. This scale was different this morning, right? I was like, oh, my God. So anyhow, the point here is that if you want things to change, it's got to start today with you doing small things. So just in conclusion, here's what I want you guys to do this week or today is start looking at doing an inventory of what was your last week look like. What did it look like? What did you do great? Okay? And what could you have done differently? And at that moment, write things down, right? This is what I did great, okay? And this is what I could do differently, or this is what I could improve on. And let this week be the week that you celebrate those things that you did great. If it's going to serve you to continue doing them, do them. And for those things that you didn't do great, start thinking, what could I put in place to make sure that this week is different than last week? And that's how you're going to start designing every single week as a different habit, different mentality, and you will notice that as soon as you start taking different actions, your attitude's going to change, your mindset's going to change, you're going to have a bounce to your step. If you didn't give out those invitations last week, if you didn't drink your 2 shakes and your 1 meal last week, no problem, okay? Learn from that and say, why didn't I not stick to my plan? What was missing? Okay, and as soon as you replace that with something that will serve you, you will notice that this week will be a completely different week, and then 2014 will be extraordinary. So one of the things that I will tell you just to wrap this up is nothing, honestly, you guys, nothing happens unless you choose it. Nothing happens from your action to your mindset. All those things are a choice. So if you have something, you can choose it. Like, you know what? Okay, I'm 50 pounds overweight. Not me, right? But if you're 50 pounds overweight, you can say, you know what? I choose these 50 pounds right now, and I choose to do something about it. There is so much power in choice. You're not going to be the victim. You're not going to be like, oh, poor me, but you just choose it. Like, okay, this is what it is. I have the 50 pounds, but the 50 pounds doesn't have me. And then you do something about it. If your financial situation is not great, choose it at that moment, and you get power around it, and you go, now guess what? I choose to do something different. I choose to change this. I choose to alter this, and this is what I'm going to put in place to make sure that happens. So with that said, you guys, I want to really thank you for being on the call. I empower you and I encourage you to make this week not the same as last week. Turn it up just a notch. Turn it up 2 notches. Turn it up as much as you choose to turn it up, and you will see that next week and next year will be a year of this. Next week and this year will be a year and a week, and this week will be a year that was nothing like you imagined, you know. And what I mean by that is that you will have an empowered year because you're chosen. So with that said, thank you guys so much for being on the call. God bless you, and we will listen to you next week. Bye-bye.